Revolutionary salutations to the people of Zimbabwe, comradely salutations to the people of Africa. My name is Comrade Nqobizitha Mlambo. I'm a revolutionary intellectual. Today I'm joined by none other than Comrade Treasure Basopo, aka Comrade Majimaji on the Tete Atete. Comrade Brother Basopo, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, fellow comrade, brother Nqobizitha Mlambo.
Yes.
Thank you very much to all our viewers. Revolutionary greetings to you, fellow comrades, commanders, commissioners, brigadiers, and generals. Yes, once again today we are here back to give a tete-a-tete, a pretty prato, like what Brother Mlambo always want to say, a titu-tatu. Today we are here to give an analysis,
cross-pollinate ideas.
Yes, on what has been transpiring since time immemorial when we last recorded our last Brother Mlambo.
So Brother Basopo, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I would like to remind the people of Zimbabwe that this is not a show like Melting Pot, where one asks questions and another person responds. No, this is an intellectual platform where, as revolutionary intellectuals, we cross-pollinate ideas. We demystify the lies of government. We expose the lies of government. We expose the lies of the present plutocracy, the present kakistocracy, masquerading as a people-centered government. But Brother Basopo, a lot of issues are emanating in the motherland, Brother Basopo. Prices are continue to skyrocket. Hyperinflation continues to be the order of the day. Senior consultants, medical practitioners at the country's biggest referral hospital, popularly known as Barinyato group of hospitals, are on strike, are on industrial action. A clear sign that austerity for prosperity, Zimbabwe is open for business, and Vision 2030, marinated by the Transitional Stabilization Program, they are not working.
Absolutely.
In short, Zimbabwe is in a crisis. Zimbabwe is showing the signs of a failed state. Zimbabwe is showing that it cannot walk the talk on reform. Zimbabwe is clearly showing that the masses of our people need to organize themselves in their social movements and use the streets as a point of entry to demand, number one, justice, number two, the rule of law, number three, democratically organized economic system, which is not neoliberal in outlook, but which is people-centered. I'm referring to what we popularly call a democratic developmental state. So, Brother Baso, what is your comment on the recent pronouncements by the Minister of Finance, Professor Nqobizitha, that he had a budget surplus of $133 million in January? What are your comments vis-a-vis the social indicators? He's giving the quantitative indicators, but the social indicators are not indicative of an economic budget surplus, because there are no medicines in the shelves of the hospitals. There are no medicines. Even when you find medicines in private pharmaceutical companies, they are expensive. They want US dollars. What are your comments, Brother Basopo, as we try to cross-pollinate ideas and profile an alternative?
Well, thanks, Brother Nqobizitha Mlambo. I think you have charted a visionary trajectory with regards to what has been transpiring all along in the country since we recorded our last data. But as we are speaking, I just said that I can't be passed by one of the topical stories that just transpired over these past days. That caught my eye when we saw a dead man eating food, gobbling food on his own funeral like no man's business. But anyway, going back to Zimbabwe's issue with regards to this guy's policy pronouncement, the macroeconomic policy framework that was charted by Nqobizitha, making use of the trajectory of monetary policy, of course, which was encompassed and what you call it, assisted together with the fiscal policy, the RBZ governor and his fellow that are always in contradiction. I think it's important. Actually, this needs a whole tete-a-tete for us to unpack this monetary policy. But I think specifically because of our time, we need to look at the quality of our lives. Like you said, is it changing? Also, what is the first impact of the monetary policy pronouncement? The first thing, Brother Mlambo, that I noted with a academic disgust, like what I always want to say, is the failure to ring fence the salaries of the people who have fixed incomes. Like we talk of the civil servants, and also even those who are no longer going to work, the pensioners. The pensioners, their money corroded and eaten away by inflation, irregardless of having been promised prior by the government in 2016 that their salaries, their pension funds, they are protected. Now that the government is saying we are now pegging the previously 1:1, 2.5, they did not make that also happen to people's salaries. So the net effect of that is a serious degradation in terms of the quality of the lives, because already demand has already been let's say the purchasing power of these people's money
power
has already been corroded,
yes,
and the government mercilessly is just looking at that and is actually ordering more cars as we speak right now. So these are some of the things that these guys, they don't consider. They say we have a surplus, but this surplus, what really is it speaking to? So we just know, but this is just one of the grandstanding saying no, we are dealing with this. Like I think you are aware, the government made a statement today, or if not yesterday, that no, we are buying we're now resolving the issue to do with medicines. So regardless of having a surplus, they're even failing to procure and make sure
medical
that you have efficient service delivery in our country, and that needs a serious you need to look at this in the shortest time period.
So I like the point that you have raised, Brother Basopo, linking the monetary policy statement with social service delivery, linking the monetary policy statement with the pensioners, for example, those who worked hard for this country to be where it is today, but they are being treated differently by the present governors in this country. But I want to touch on the Brother Basopo, on the budget surplus. They say they're saying the figures, the economic indicators, 133 million. In December, they are saying they had 734 million as a budget surplus. But what we are witnessing on the ground, for example, there is no water. The city of Harare, municipality of Harare, is constantly cutting water supply to the masses of our people who stay in dusty neighborhoods like Mamavuku, Tafara, Kambuzuma, Kwadzana, poor neighborhoods of ordinary average working people and the working poor and the informally employed. So we are questioning now from a human development perspective, a sustainable human development perspective. I'll make allusion, Brother Basopo, to the 2006 Human Development Index report of the United Nations Development Program, UNDP. They said when we measure economic growth, when we measure the success of an economy, we cannot rely on quantitative economic indicators. So Professor Mthuli Ncube is obsessed with the quantitative reflective indicators like GDP growth rate, like month-on-month inflation, like reducing the inflation figure of Zimbabwe to a single digit by the end of the year, as he said to the IMF chief when he met in the United States. We are saying no, human economic development should reflect a change in the material conditions of our people. But what are the material conditions, Brother Basopo? Job security, job creation, fundamentally the nature of the jobs. We talk about the proper social service delivery, refuse collection, funding municipalities and devolving power so that municipalities and provinces, funding devolution, so that provinces are able to be autonomous and govern their economic, political and social affairs to make sure that Zimbabwe is a transformative state.
If you just want to see that these people, they have failed, not only failing, but they failed in absolute terms. Look, they have shifted their game, they have shifted their rhetoric. They are now becoming scapegoaters and blame gamers. They are now putting squarely the blame on sanctions. They are now saying sanctions. So the use of economic figures, I'm an economist, I know economics. We did economics, it's mostly mathematical. But as we were about to finish the degree, we started to do things like social economics, development economics, where quantitative economics is almost relegated. You begin to qualitative economics, you begin to put economics at par with people's lives. Because these guys, they use them as effective smoke screens to make people not understand what's really happening. But basically, the economy of the country must benefit our people. Like you are saying, production costs even to those who want to produce and start businesses, they have already shot up. They raised the fuel costs extensively, even to buy US dollars from the banks. They are not providing it. So companies, they are now being forced to go back in the streets and buy foreign currency on the black market. Yes, the rates are shooting. The rates are shooting. So we cannot talk of a budget surplus and an increase in the manufacturing sector. In actual fact, we are seeing on a daily basis that production costs they are rising. Speaking of manufacturing, sorry to cut you, but something came to my mind that since November, the coup of November, to present 55 companies or 56 companies have closed. This is a report of this Standard newspaper, a reputable newspaper in this country, of the previous Sunday that a few days ago. That 55 or 56 companies have closed. But you're saying Zimbabwe is open for business. You're saying austerity for prosperity. You're saying we are liberalizing the economy. So does liberalization, does austerity, does Zimbabwe is open for business translate into company closures, translate into job losses? That's when we begin to say economics that is designed in Western capitals to suit African context, it is not proper, it is not sustainable. Let us develop our own alternative economic models. Hence we talk, Brother Basopo, you and I talk about endogenous developing our economies.
that which we call transformative democratic developmental states. So if that does not happen, for example, you say Mutuli is saying because of the 2% tax regime, we had a budget surplus. But whom are you taxing? Let's analyze that from a social perspective, a social, let's say social lenses. Let's be humane for a second.
What are the characteristics of a good tax system?
What are the characteristics of a regressive tax system? So Mutuli's regressive 2% tax system is what has caused the budget surplus, not government fiscal consolidation or fiscal discipline, as he claimed the IMF chief when he met in Washington DC a few weeks ago. So the truth of the matter is that government expenditure, you were saying they were now buying new cars. Government expenditure has not been reduced. Actually, it has ballooned. You understand, Brother Basopo?
Whilst you are there, Brother Mlambo, you should also bear in mind that they are just talking of a very small segment of the economy of Zimbabwe, where thereby they are relegating, they are not deciding to look into the 94.5% of the Zimbabwean economy, which is the informal sector. So these guys, at the end of the day, they just try and play with the rhetoric at the expense of people's lives. As I'm speaking today, 44 babies have died because they are failing to get oxygen for those babies.
Infant mortality is going up.
We know that even the Harare hospital, some of these departments, they have closed, they have referred people to Parenyato. But what
is suffering as well.
Parenyato is suffering as well. And that is a constitutionally provided right to health.
Yes.
So where are we going as a nation?
We are going nowhere, Brother Basopo. I think we now need to summarize the tete-a-tete and allow the people of Zimbabwe to digest the tete-a-tete, give their views as well, their responses and comments. So, Brother Basopo, I would like your parting shots. What are your final words to the people of Zimbabwe? And also, what are the next tete-a-tete is going to talk about to the people of Zimbabwe so that people are aware and people can contribute equally? What is the plan for the future? What are your words of conclusion?
Well, I think just like how Nqobizitha Machiavelli, when he was giving a present to Medici, who was then a prince, he said, but please take this present in the spirit in which I send it.
Yes.
So today I'm saying to our viewers, please take this tete-a-tete in the spirit in which you have recorded and uploaded it.
Yes.
But when it comes to the next tete-a-tete, we are going to be touching on sanctions, because we've seen these guys, they are making use of sanctions as a scapegoat, and we are going to demystify these sanctions becoming, if possible, even want to have a live, so that we can interact
on Facebook,
so that we can interact with our viewers. But the struggle continues anyway.
Thank you very much, Zimbabwe. I remain yours truly, Comrade Nqobizitha Mlambo, obviously joined by Comrade Majimaji. We are saying that we are going to talk about sanctions on our next tete-a-tete. We are aware that this government suffers from a disease called excusitis. They are making excuses, there's sanctions. They are making excuses, these sanctions, there's no water sanctions, there's no service delivery sanctions, there's no currency sanctions. So excusitis, we are going to expose the excusitis of this government behind the smoke screen of sanctions. But let me also pass my condolences and words of commiserations to the lives lost when the Ethiopian Boeing 737 Max 8 when it was involved in a crash in Kenya. We say commiserations to the mourning families, commiserations to the Ethiopian people, the Kenyan people, and all nationalities who had people who died in that crash. It is very sad. And we are also saying to Boeing as a company, that capitalist monopoly, make sure that you are aware or you take cognizance of the importance of people's security by making sure that your planes are properly designed. Because there is a report which we will touch on in the future tete-a-tete when we discuss big monopoly companies in the capitalist system. But for today, listen to tete-a-tete, Comrade Brother Basopo. Long live the fight for social and economic justice in our own lifetime. Thank you very much. Aluta continue. Patria omuyete. Vinceremos, as Amilcar Cabral would say.
Yes.
Mad thing.
Aluta.